And just like that, the All Blacks International Tour were at the final match of the 4 that they played. This one, probably the biggest of the bunch, you'd have to say. They are going to be taking on the English and what promises to be an exciting way to end the November internationals. But it is myself, it is Tim here from Rugbyitch. How are you doing, mate? Are you excited for this game? And do you think the All Blacks can give away less penalties than they did up against Scotland?
I mean, hopefully they can learn from their mistakes following that game. And I think it'll actually be a good battle between England and the All Blacks this time. I mean, in a weird way, I mean, this is probably one of the most evenly kind of matches in terms of history for a long time. Like, where both these sides, I would say, are kind of at a point of time like where they're not doing the best, but they're looking to improve. So both teams obviously have something to play for. So yeah, very excited for the game.
So for myself anyway, I've made quite a few changes. I felt there were a few All Blacks that really let down the side last week up against the Scottish. I assume you are the same, and that transitions us straight to the front row. Who have you got as your 1, 2, and 3? Yeah,
so for the front row, overall in the game, I thought they were, how to put this nicely, like they're no. Exactly. Yeah, I want to say, like, I was like, yeah, they're all right. But yeah, I've made actually 2 changes to the front row following last week, just because I would normally go with the likes of, like Ethan de Groot here, but I just thought he didn't have as good of a game as I normally expect from him. And he has actually been starting recently for the All Blacks, but I have made a change there, and I've actually gone with George Bauer to start at number 1. For number 2, I've actually gone here with Cody Taylor, so a bit more experience actually within this position. I know I could have gone with likes of Takalaho, but I just want a bit more experience. But for number 3, actually, this is where I've actually gone with Tyrell Lomax. So I kind of putting him down the side. So in all honesty, I've actually made 3 changes to what they made kind of like last week. So yeah, hopefully they can kind of spice it up. But yeah, that front row, in my opinion, definitely needs to improve into this England game, because it will be a tough contest.
Alrighty, so for my front row, I've gone back to what they had throughout the Rugby Championship. It was effective for some reason. They decided to break it up. My mindset for any front row is really, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
And the All Blacks, they had a working product, and then they were like, you know what? Let's see if we can break this a little bit more so that it's harder to find where we were. So I've gone Ethan de Groot at number 1, Samisoni Taukei'aho number 2, and then Tyrell Lomax number 3. I think if those 3 get some minutes under their belt together, they'll start to build that chemistry and can be a very dangerous front row when they do fire on the day. But now looking through at the locks, for me, I haven't made any changes from what they went with up against Scotland. Sam Whitelock at number 4, and then Scott Barrett at number 5. The 2 Crusaders, a lot of experience between them. I feel like for them to change it now would be very risky, even though you could say both Barrett and Whitelock, they didn't have the best games up against Scotland. They were both pretty solid. But adding someone like a Tupava'ai now might be a little bit risky with the English game just around the corner.
Yeah, no, I agree with that fully. I mean, I've gone the exact same as you, Whitelock and Barrett. I mean, I think you can't really change it. Like you said, with Valet really your only option, I'd say, coming off the bench. It just doesn't feel right, really, to kind of mix it up, obviously, going into this final game. So, yeah, I feel like it's good to stick with the two Crusaders boys there.
Righty, so now we move on to the loose forward trio. Now, last week, I think we both actually agreed on the exact same trio, and we both got it correct, if I'm not wrong. We went Akira Ioane, Papali'i, and Savia. Now, this week, have you made any changes to that grouping?
I actually have made 1 change within this. I've actually changed Akira, and I've gone actually with Shana Rizal at number 6. Just Akira, I hate to say this, because he's one of my favorite players. Just that he just didn't have as good of a performance I'd really expect from him. So to kind of what we've seen within the Blues within this season. So yeah, I've gone with Shana Rizal there. I mean, he's actually been brilliant for the All Blacks, I say, throughout this autumn international. So that's the reason why I put him there in that place. But yeah, no, for number 7, I've gone with Dalton Papali'i. I thought he was actually brilliant on the day. Obviously, got man of the match, and yeah, just proved the quality you really have with Papali'i off the. I mean, I just feel so bad for him, because obviously with Sam Cane obviously being the captain, it's understandable why he's not getting as many minutes. But he is literally just he's proving when Kane's not there, that he can put in these type of performances. So yeah, I really hope the All Black selectors, particularly Ian Foster, obviously sees that and be like, well, we have another guy off here who can maybe start for this team. So yeah, hopefully these performances obviously kind of mean something going into the World Cup. But yeah, for number 8, honestly, no question about it. Brings a lot of experience and has been brilliant throughout this whole Autumn Nations.
Okay, so we actually went with the exact same change. I also added Shannon Frizzell back into my side in the place of a Kiriwani. I feel like Kiriwani lately has been a little bit better coming off the bench, adding a bit more of that late impact. Whereas Frizzell, for the first 40 to 60 minutes, he seems to really be able to bring that physicality, which is what you need up against England, because they're going to come out firing. They're going to be working hard on those breakdowns, trying to get those turnovers, because we've seen the All Blacks in their last game up against Scotland, and even to an extent the game up against Wales, penalties in the breakdown is something they've been leaking quite a bit throughout recent history. So that is where you need someone quick, getting in there, getting the clean out, trying to sort any problems out that may arise. But now we move on to the back line. For myself, I have made 2 changes for my 9-10 combo. I feel like that is probably fair enough after the way that we saw them play last week. The number 9, I have gone with Aaron Smith, adding him back in. I felt Finlay Christie had a below par game, unfortunately, up against Scotland. It just seems like that back line and 4-pack aren't on the same page when he's playing number 9. And it sounds like a harsh statement to make, but it got so much better when TJ Perenara made his way out onto the field, and it seemed like the All Blacks actually gained structure when that happened, which is something that they would have liked to have throughout the full match. And number 10, I went Richie Mo'unga. Beauden Barrett, that man likes kicking the ball away every chance that he gets. Unfortunately, the chip and chases, yes, one day, one of them's going to work, but the other 99 just give the ball straight back to the opposition. Like, I know so many people were getting frustrated watching it, just, oh, there's another chip. Scotland have the ball again. But it was kind of expected with the amount of changes the All Blacks made in that back line that they weren't going to have that chemistry that they could have had the week prior, because Beauden, he was playing 15, went to 10. Geordie Barrett was playing 12, went to 15. All new midfield combo, new 9 and 10 combo. Mark Talia on debut out on the wing. It was just always going to be a muddled mess. And everyone saw that except Ian. So now I've decided to go back to the one that they have tried in the past and it has worked, which is Smith and Richie Mo'unga.
Nice. Okay. So, I've gone actually with the exact same 2 you've gone with Aaron Smith and Mo'unga. Like you said, just need a bit of a reshuffle in terms of those 9-10 positions. I think it's, like you said, it's just expected at the end of the day. They need to kind of work out their chemistry, and I believe these 2 probably work out the best, I'd say, out of the 9-10 combinations that the All Blacks have. Again, Beauden Barrett, it's one of those like where he actually is. I actually thought he was all right looking back at the highlights, but the problem is that he doesn't have someone like Will Jordan making those runs, which he always goes for those chip, kind of chases. But with Will Jordan not there, there's not really anyone that does that. Kind of follows Beauden's I guess like what his tactic, to say the least, of kicking the ball up in the air. But yeah, it's just one of those games where you like kind of just I just look back and just kind of just learn from those mistakes. But yeah, the 9-10 combination I had one with is Smith and Mo'unga.
Alrighty, now we move on to the midfield combination. I assume we have both also got a couple changes here, perhaps.
Yes,
I've made 12 and 13.
Yes, this is definitely the area I think the All Blacks were the weakest in my opinion. I'd say throughout that Scotland game, just. Yeah, the center combination of Havili and Alexander Brown just did not work to what everyone was thinking. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, when you look at it on paper, let's be brutally honest, I actually think it looks good actually on paper because they kind of match each other's, I guess, like attributes or kind of skill traits that they both have. But yeah, it just wasn't a good day for both of them, particularly Alexander Brown. I mean, he was just. I think that's one of his. I don't want to say worst. I just want to say it's just one of those performances where you can't really look back at that anymore. It's just it's one of the to get out of your mind. Yeah, I have actually made 2 changes here, and I'm actually going with Geordie Barrett, the start at number 12, and I've actually gone with Reiko, to kind of come back into the side of number 13. And yeah, I believe this it's a cool combination. I kind of like it a lot, and I believe it'll be a lot more balanced compared to Havili and Alexander Brown. And of course, Barrett does give that kicking option as well, so I had to put him in the number 12 spot.
Okay, we're on the same page, mate. I have gone number 12, Geordie Barrett. Number 13, Rieko Ioane. Once again, the impact off the bench that we saw from Ioane was so prominent. Just adding that little bit of extra pace in that midfield. Havili and Leonard Brown, it seemed like, the thing is, Leonard Brown was the player giving away all the penalties.
It was just...
But I can't remember a time in that first little while that I actually saw David Havili. I don't know where he was.
Yeah,
but other than a couple attacking plays... Like Anton Leonard Brown, yes, he was giving away things, but he was actually there, which I feel like in a weird way, it kind of evens itself out a little bit. That yellow card wasn't great.
Yeah.
And also got that massive turnover right near the end of the game where he got over the ball only a couple meters out from the AB's line, similar to what we saw from Artie Savia. That turnover was a game changer.
Even Perinara.
ABs. Good old Perifetta, eh? Just thinking back to it. 1 minute and 2 seconds. The man is on fire with his All Blacks minutes.
Also, like, I think he has a bet with someone saying, okay, we're gonna make sure that Perifetta only gets 10 minutes before the Rugby World Cup, and we're gonna include him in the side because he's our guy. And then
that's the thing, like, he's so lucky that he got the start up against Japan, because I think he's going to have more minutes in just that game than probably his next 10.
I agree.
The way that they're going.
Literally, at this rate, it's unbelievable. I don't know what they're doing, but I mean, you have McKenzie obviously waiting on the sidelines. He did play in that game against the Barbarians. On the same day as well, which I went to, and he was actually brilliant on the day as well. So he's definitely looking at, I guess, Perifetta and be like, hey, if he's not getting minutes, then maybe you should consider me, or maybe he's like, he's like, crap, maybe I'm gonna get these amount of minutes if I join the All Black team, but we'll see what happens.
Certainly take the smile off D-Mac's face, wouldn't it, if he comes back to the ABs after like 2 years and has to take the quick tap to kick the ball into touch so the crowd boos him. That was rough as well, wasn't it? Poor Perifetta. I feel like that's going to be a hashtag. But now, moving on to the back three. Have we got a Perifetta in your back three by any chance? Probably not, I'd assume.
Unfortunately not. Yeah. Just, I guess
it's the selectors.
Exactly. And following suit. But no, for number 11, I've actually gone with Severis here at number 11, because he's obviously played there in the past and obviously very good in terms of turning over the balls. That's the reason why I've gone with him there. And I could have gone with Caleb, but I think Reese deserves a chance in that 11 jersey. For number 14, actually, I have actually stuck with Martelea here. I thought he was actually one of the few players who actually had a good game for the All Blacks. Obviously got 2 tries to his name. And I don't feel like hopefully he can continue his momentum, with the All Blacks, and hopefully he gets a lot more minutes. So that's the reason why I've chosen at number 14. And for number 15, this is where I go with Beauden Barrett. I believe this is a better position for him in terms of his kicking ability, to say the least, in terms of the amount of kicking he'll like to do. And obviously, he gives good cover at the end of the day and is very good in finding spaces for defenses. So that's the reason why I've come with him there.
Because you have actually gone with Severis a couple weeks, haven't you? And they have never gone with it up to this day.
They've done it like in the past where they've gone with Reese at 11, but it's just one of those like where when they did it, I never really considered it because obviously we've seen it for the Crusaders, because he can actually play both positions easily. But it's one of those like where I think with the All Blacks, he's only played number 11, I think, a few times. But I believe whenever he played there, he was actually really useful. But I understand like when obviously, Caleb Clark, when he came back for the All Blacks, he kind of immediately just kind of went into that spot during the Rugby Championship, and he actually did pretty well in my opinion. I'd say throughout some of the games, not every game he was. I'll admit, like some of the games he didn't even have a touch of the ball, but some games he actually was pretty impactful. So I understand why Reese was taken out then, but I believe Reese now is probably a player who I believe can, change the game, particularly against England, because it'll be a tough game.
I've gone with the same thing. I've put Severis as my number 11. Of course, I would have loved to have Rieko Ioane there as my left winger, but it seems like the All Blacks are not going to be doing that anytime soon. So I've decided Reese is a good option. Caleb Clark, he's had a November international tour to forget. I think is the best way of describing it. The man's hands are made of butter, and the ball is just well and truly slipping out of it every single time that he tries to attempt to catch it. And the thing is, I actually mentioned it to you before we started filming. George Bridge, as much as people like to not like him, like he probably wouldn't have been a bad option on that left wing at some stage throughout this November international tour. He hasn't been playing badly the moment throughout the Bunnings EBC or in the game up against the Barbars, or against the AB's 15, I should say. He's on that Barbars side. Same now as Damian McKenzie, I should mention, has joined up with the Barbarians. Yeah,
of course. Yeah, I believe he's playing the Harlequins, if I'm not mistaken, within the next 2 days. So, I'll be excited to see how he gets along from that one. But I actually, to be honest, I mean, of course, we can't really think about Bridge because he's obviously moving now towards France. But a player who I believe could actually do well. I mean, yes, there is one player I mentioned before we recorded with Nareki. Obviously now signing a new deal with Hollanders. So he's someone maybe that the All Blacks can consider bringing up maybe towards the All Blacks for the first time. But another player, he's on the tip of my tongue. I'm forgetting his name. The left winger for the Hurricanes. He had a great season. Yeah, Riassi. He's someone who I believe, I mean, he kind of reminds me of Ben Lamb in the sense of in the past of what he was able to bring towards the Hurricanes. And I believe he's someone maybe you can kind of help the All Blacks in terms of that position. Kind of similar towards Caitlin Clark, I guess, in terms of like a big man in that left wing. But I think he's really good in finding spaces. So he's definitely someone I would consider maybe for the, I guess, after watching the Super Rugby season, maybe you can consider him to bring him up, but maybe it's a bit too late, obviously with the World Cup around the corner. But yeah, he's definitely someone I'd keep my eye on.
And of course, we should mention Lester Nuku.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's another good option. Yeah, Lester is just
out on that wing. Is he currently with the All Blacks 15, or has he gone back to New Zealand?
Well, he's with the All Blacks 15. Got a picture of him, by the way, in my vlog, by the way, guys. Check that out. But yeah, no, I believe he was in the All Blacks 15. Yeah.
So now moving to my number 14, I've actually done the same as you as well. I've left Mark Delia in there, going back to my saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Exactly. He played well, scored himself the debut try, and I mean those in-goal areas were absolutely huge, weren't they?
They were.
Plenty of room for Mark Delia to be able to run in that try, and then also getting himself that one late in the game as well. He played well. Give him another crack. Up against the English. Yes, it's a whole different level playing up against England with one of those flying wingers, trying to work out who they would have out on that left wing. They've got a few options, don't they? They may end up going with a Jack Noel, maybe.
Yeah. Or Rundle.
They got Rundle.
Yeah, I go with Rundle. I mean, obviously he's now just been selected, I believe, for most improved player by World Rugby for the award. So he's definitely someone I think they may go with. Obviously, there is the obvious one with May, but I don't think they'll really go with him. I'm not too sure about that one. But yeah, I think Arndell is someone they may consider doing that position. Or Joe Singer. He was pretty good actually for them against, I believe, Japan and against Argentina. I think he got like 2 tries against Argentina. So yeah, he's definitely someone you can play in that position.
It's one of those situations that I think it's almost going to be harder to predict an English lineup. For this contest,
it really is,
than the All Blacks.
I agree.
Yeah. Jumping into my fullback now. I did not go Stephen Perofeta, unfortunately. I decided I would continue the trend of giving him 50 seconds. So instead at number 15, I have gone with Beauden Barrett. So we've done the exact same thing. In fact, the only thing different between us is our number 1 and 2 in the whole starting line. Everything else is identical.
That is crazy.
That's quite impressive.
And what's even crazier is that I actually was going to go with Ethan DeGroot and Tekalaho, but I wanted to make changes. So there's a last minute changes. So we actually would have had the exact same lineup. So that is actually bad that we actually wanted the exact same. But hey, if two great minds think alike, maybe the All Blacks selectors will think alike as well. But knowing them, they'll disregard this immediately. Be like, what are these two numpties talking about?
We, alongside the people, don't really get much of a say, do we?
No, unfortunately we don't. No.
Now the bench. I assume we've got to have... Oh, actually, to be fair, we probably won't have too many changes other than maybe number 16 and 17. Because for myself, I have got Cody Taylor at number 16, number 17, George Bauer, and then number 18, Fletcher Newell. I decided to stick with that All Crusaders front row. Okay. So decided that it worked pretty well off the bench last week. Cody Taylor had a real impact for the ABs, and I feel like his form is slowly growing quite nicely, which is great to see, as they really didn't have another option for a hooker other than Takiaho. It's a shame that Asafa Moore may miss out on minutes due to Cody Taylor's form that he's found, but I think Asafa Moore is still definitely a player for the future for the ABs as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yes, I mean, obviously a bit different within these particular positions. So I have gone the likes of Tekalaho, obviously, from the hook position off the bench. Following him, I have gone with Ethan DeGroot here. And then, to finish it off, this is where I've gone with Offerton Fassi, actually. So I could have gone with the likes of maybe like Nipolalala, but I just thought he was not the best, I'd say, on the day against Scotland. So a bit of a switch up there. I could have gone with like yourself with Fletcher Newell, but I just want to do someone different. So I've gone with Offer there.
All right, so now we will move on to the replacement forwards, the rest of them, the lock, the loose forward. Who have you got as your 19 and your 20?
Yeah, so this is where I actually haven't made any changes to what I did last week. Well, actually, I've made one, actually, I confess. But I've gone with Tupa Valai at number 19. But for number 20, this is actually where I've gone with Akira within that position. Like you said, he's pretty good off the bench and seems to do better, really, for the All Blacks in that position, which is a tough thing for me to say because, I think early on in the year when it was like, the July Internationals, I believe, before they were playing Ireland, I was like, man, you got to start Akira because he was like the informed six really back then, obviously following that Super Rugby season. And then Shannon Frizzell was only really getting back into the squad following his injury. So yeah, the times have really changed since then. And obviously going from the Rugby Championship, Frizzell was actually the main guy within that one. I fought for the ABs, and then he's kind of continuing that now for this autumn international. So yeah, just feel bad for Akira, but knowing him, he can definitely turn it around within one game. So yeah, hope he does that off the bench.
And once again, I'm going to say it, we are identical. Tupavai number 19, Akiriwani number 20. For myself, we're struggling with changes here. Surely the last three positions, the backs, we've got to have something different. Although, to be fair, I think if I was a betting man, I would say you've got at least two of the three players that I've got in my replacement backs. Number 21, just say yes or no if I'm on the right track here. Number 21 for myself, TJ Perenara.
Yep, exact same, yep.
Okay, it seemed like really that impact.
Yeah, I mean, you had to go
huge, so he had to be there somewhere. For the ABs, number 22, Stephen Perafeta.
Yep.
Picking off 2 from 2. I might even get 3 from 3 at this rate, but I really, if they give him any less than 5 minutes, the man's got to get a big money deal in Japan or somewhere that actually will give him minutes under his belt because he's a great player. You see it throughout Super Rugby. You see it throughout the Bunnies FBC. Oh, yeah, of course, you're a Blues boy.
I'm a Blues fan. Anyway. I just can't have that happen because the thing is that, like, with Beauden Barrett, obviously, we all know that he has to eventually, obviously, leave the Blues. And I feel he's one of those players who, I even made a video about it in the past where I think he actually will move after the World Cup. So with him going, I think Perafeta will then slot in officially as the number 10 there. And then you have Zion Sullivan really covering at the 15, which is a really good duo in my opinion. And something maybe could happen for the All Blacks in the future. You know, I think Zion Sullivan is actually that good guy so that he can make the All Blacks. Unfortunately, I think, again, I don't know the official confirmation because he wasn't a part of the All Blacks XV squad actually. But I think it's only because of injury he wasn't available. So, but I truly think that's someone to think about in the future as well. But yeah, like you said with Perafeta, I think you just got to give him minutes. You got to give him minutes. So yeah, we'll see what happens there.
More than one. That's the goal for this matchup against the English.
Exactly.
We're sitting 2 from 2. We've got a third position here. For myself, I've gone with a centre as my third replacement. I have gone with a man who didn't get a yellow card last week in the centre combination. And I have gone with David Havili as my number 23. Same as you.
Exact same.
So literally front rows is the only thing we've had a slight
crazy
misinterpretation of.
I think that's probably the first time where we've almost essentially guessed everything, guys. This is actually pretty bonkers, actually, when we think about it. But
the only difference we have is literally whether or not it's going to be Fletcher or Ofa Toingafasi.
Yeah.
That is the only player that we have actually got different in our whole 23-man squad. So that means the All Blacks, they'll have 15 changes from what we've got, and they'll go from there. Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes all right against the English is the big point at the end of the day, isn't it? But nonetheless, that is going to be the end of this prediction. Do let us know in the comments, ladies and gentlemen, what you would have as your All Black starting lineup and reserves up against England. It's going to be a tough game. That is one thing for sure. The All Blacks, if they don't get the selection right, you have to say that England would have a pretty decent chance of being able to close out the autumn internationals with a win. But thank you very much once again for coming on the channel, Rugbyitch. You can find his link and also that video that he talked about of him going to the Barbarians versus All Blacks 15 over there on his channel. But if you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.